clear that the most recent parts of what we know as Valmiki's text were compiled between 200 and 400 of the Christian era. The second telling of Rama's story, Kamba's Inamavataram, is historically and quite conclusively dated to the 12th century of the Christian era. It remains astonishing to me that the story that we now hold as a central text of Hinduism disappeared from the public imagination for as long as a millennium. Even if we argue that it did not disappear, that we only don't know what happened to it in these 1,000 years, we have to marvel at the fact that something that has become so canonical experienced such long years of silence. What we do know about the centuries between the first and the second Rama stories is that bhakti burst through the fabric of Hinduism. Not only did bhakti create a new worshipper of the divine, it changed the idea of God himself. Around the same time, the same period of 1,000 years, the idea of Vishnu's avatars and their cosmic mission to protect human dharma emerged as a central element of Vaishnava theology, even as Shaivism worked itself out through various and very different modalities such as emanations, aspects, manifestations, etc. By the 3rd century of the Christian era, we also have the development of the Puranas, compendium texts filled with stories of gods and demons and the constant battles between them for the control of the 3 worlds. All of these massive theological and narrative changes got reflected and absorbed into both the epics, into both the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Philologically, socially, politically, linguistically, theologically, every way except emotionally, we can establish the fact that the first and last books of Valmiki's Ramayana, the Bala and the Uttarakandas, were composed much later than the central books. The central books being Ayodhya through Yuddha. The Bala and Uttarakandas are different from other Kandas in many ways. Their language is different, their attitude is different, their politics is very different. We also know that Valmiki is not a historical person. He's a magnificent literary construct, a narrator who acts in the story that he tells, like Vyasa in the Mahabharata. It is impossible for Valmiki or anybody else to be the sole author of a text that was clearly composed over centuries. But what Uttarakandas do with some grace is bookend a beautiful and poignant poignant story about love and separation and loss, about brothers, about fathers and sons, about mothers and sons, about husbands and wives. With Avatara and Bhakti as their compass, the Bala and Uttarakandas navigate the trials and tribulations of a brave and honorable man who did his best to do the right thing. They use as a lodestar the idea that Rama was not merely a man fighting for what is good and true and right. He was God come to earth to remind us what dharma is. And dharma, of course, is the insistence on the right and the good. Rama appears as God only in the Bala and Uttarakandas of the Valmiki Ramayana. In Balakanda, we hear that the gods come to Vishnu and beg him to do something because this Ravana is like tormenting the worlds. And not only that, Ravana is attempting to topple the supremacy of the gods. And Vishnu is like, it's okay, don't worry, I will go down to earth as a man. I'm not going to read because I don't have time. And it's at that very moment that Dasharatha is conducting his magnificent Putreshti Yajna and Vishnu is born as Rama. Yeah? But placing this story on a cosmic level, placing it in the historical and essential conflict between the gods and the anti-gods, between the gods and the Asuras, between the gods and the Rakshasas, is a Puranic paradigm. And it is highly likely that the Bala and Uttarakandas were composed in the early Puranic with the Rakshasas. The Uttarakanda changes the Ramayana into a Mahapurana with Rama, Vishnu as its central figure. But at the Agni Pariksha, which occurs towards the end of the Yuddhakanda, for me, what is one of the most poignant moments in the entire story, Rama asks the most critical and the most existential of all questions. He asks, who am I? I'm going to read that. I don't want to paraphrase that part. We know that even the central books of the Valmiki text were composed over centuries. They were added to and subtracted from, edited, redacted, polished, rethought, revisioned. It is entirely possible that once Rama had been established as God in the newly canonized Bala and Uttarakandas, the idea of him as God was inserted into the central books retrospectively and gave Rama in these central books a pale tinge of godhood. We are compelled to notice the difference between Rama and Krishna, both avatars of Vishnu acting in the world of men. And here I say men very advisedly. Acting in the world of men to restore dharma. In the main, in Mahabharata, Krishna acts as if he knows he's God. People around him act as if he were God. And of course his elevation to divinity is also a late layer in Mahabharata. Rama does not act with the supreme assurance and confidence that Krishna does, and certainly does not perform any miracles. And it is only in the later Bhakti Ramayanas that Bali and Ravana, for example, surrender to Rama at death so they can attain moksha because they were killed by Vishnu. But what if we take the moments in the central books when Rama seems to act like God, or those around him accord him the status of God? What if we take these moments at face value? What do we make, if we take them at face value, that yeah, Rama always knew he was God, that Bhakti was written into Valmiki Ramayana, which is actually impossible, but it was written into Valmiki Ramayana right from the start. What if we take that as our starting point? What then do we make of Rama's bewilderment at the Agni Pariksha? I always thought that I was Rama, son of Dashratha. This Rama's question leaves us with the tantalizing idea that Rama is God but doesn't know it, or that he is inconsistently aware of his divinity. As David Shulman has suggested in another discussion about forgetting memory and forgetting in Valmiki, he says, and I quote, that Ramayana is a portrait of a consciousness hidden from itself, or, one might say, of an identity obscured and only occasionally, in brilliant and poignant flashes, revealed to its owner, end quote. What happens to a man if he forgets he is God? What happens to a man when he knows he is God? What happens to a woman when she knows she is God? How do we behave? How do we treat the others around us? What do we do to make the world a better place? Do we uphold a single dharma as Rama does? When we do uphold dharma, when we remember, do we uphold a single dharma as Rama does? When do we uphold dharma? Do we uphold it when we remember that we are God? Or when we remember that we are human? Or whether, as gods and humans, do we seek ways of knowing and being and understanding that acknowledge that it is difference from each other that makes us human? What makes us similar is that we all seek a truth that makes it possible to live in the world with integrity and compassion. This has got nothing to do with Rama, and it has got nothing to do with Bhakti. In this time more than ever, we have to nurture the idea that we can love the Ramayana even if we don't believe Rama is God, and that we can love Rama even though we are not bhaktas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's a very good example of deception studies and the advocacy that you made against unilateral.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said it's a good example, very good and interesting example of reception studies and your advocacy against unilinear reading of any text, including the Ramayana. And while the notion of reductionism is welcome, I said, well, while the element of reductionism of any text and putting a text in a certain kind of a political context is welcome, I have a question which is slightly parallel to your own kind of an analysis. analysis. I am talking about the historicity of Valmiki